In the shadow of gleaming skyscrapers, where success is measured in stock portfolios and corner offices, Daniel Carter huddles beneath a tattered blanket, invisible to the hurried masses passing by. His weathered face, once handsome and full of promise, now tells the silent story of a man the world chose to forget. The morning light filters through the city, casting long shadows as Daniel carefully folds his makeshift bed, tucking it into a shopping cart that holds his entire life. His movements are deliberate, dignified, small rituals that remind him of who he once was before the factory closure, before the mortgage payments became impossible, before his wife took their daughter and disappeared. "Morning, old friend," he whispers to a stray cat that visits him daily, perhaps the only living being that acknowledges his existence. Each day blends into the next in Daniel's world, searching for warmth, for sustenance, for the faintest glimmer of human kindness in averted gazes. Across town, Victoria Langley steps out of her chauffeured car, her designer heels clicking rhythmically against marble floors. The executive suite of Langley Enterprises awaits her, a fortress of glass and steel, where she has built an empire but never a home. Meetings fill her calendar, acquisitions consume her thoughts, yet something hollow echoes in her perfectly curated life. The board meeting is at 10, and don't forget the charity gala tonight, her assistant reminds her, trailing behind with an ever-present tablet. Victoria nods absently, her gaze momentarily catching her reflection in the polished elevator doors, successful, powerful, and utterly alone. The emptiness of her penthouse apartment awaits her return each night, filled with expensive art but devoid of laughter or love. Two souls moving through the same city, yet worlds apart. Daniel, fighting for survival on streets that have become both his prison and shelter. Victoria, trapped in a gilded cage of her own making. Neither knows that fate has set their paths on a collision course, that a single moment of awareness will shatter the invisible barriers between their worlds, forever altering the trajectory of two lives seemingly destined never to intersect. The sky erupts without warning, sheets of rain cascading down as if the heavens themselves had fractured. Victoria Langley clutches her designer jacket closer, the fabric never meant to withstand such elemental fury. Her sleek luxury car, a testament to her success, now sits silent and unresponsive along a desolate street far from her usual polished world. "No, no, no," she whispers frantically, the blue glow of her phone illuminating her face as the dreaded no-service message mocks her attempts to call for help. The downpour intensifies, drumming against the roof like an ominous countdown, each drop another second lost in a night that has spiraled beyond her control. Streets away, Daniel hunches beneath the minimal shelter of a store awning, his few possessions already soaked despite his best efforts. The storm has stolen tonight's chance for warmth, for food, yet when he hears the distant sound of distress carrying through the rain, something stirs within him that years of hardship couldn't extinguish. Victoria's manicured fingers tremble as she attempts to make sense of the engine's mysteries beneath the hood. Water streams down her face, washing away carefully applied makeup, revealing vulnerability rarely seen in boardrooms where she commands respect with unwavering confidence. "Need some help?" The voice startles her. She turns, instinctively stepping back upon seeing Daniel, Rain-soaked, disheveled, clearly homeless, her purse clutches tighter to her side, years of city caution flashing warning signals. "I used to be a mechanic," he offers simply, keeping a respectful distance, his eyes holding neither judgment nor expectation, just the quiet dignity of someone offering what little they have left. Knowledge. Time suspends between them, the wealthy executive and the forgotten man, as rain continues its relentless percussion around them. Something in his gentle gaze disarms her practiced defenses. "Please," she finally says, stepping aside. Daniel's experienced hands work methodically, despite fingers numbed by cold, his concentration absolute as Victoria watches in silent wonder. When the engine finally hums to life, her relief transforms into something deeper, bewilderment at kindness offered freely by someone who has nothing to give, but gives anyway. "Thank you," she whispers, truly seeing him for the first time. "What can I—" Daniel shakes his head, already stepping back into the shadows. "Just helping a neighbor," he says with the ghost of a smile, unaware that this simple act of compassion has just altered both their destinies forever. Raindrops catch the glow of streetlights as Daniel hunches over the exposed engine of Victoria's luxury vehicle, his movements precise despite trembling fingers. Years on the streets have weathered his hands, but they still remember. Muscle. Memory guiding them through familiar pathways of metal and wire, awakening a part of himself long buried beneath survival's harsh demands. "Do you really think you can fix it?" Victoria asks, sheltering beneath a small awning, her voice carrying a note of doubt that doesn't match the hope flickering in her eyes. Daniel nods silently, burrowing deep into the mechanical heart of the car that costs more than he ever earned in a year. With only a small toolkit borrowed from a nearby service station, offered reluctantly by a suspicious attendant, he works methodically, his concentration absolute despite the rain soaking through his already damp clothes. "The alternator connection is loose," he explains softly, his voice carrying the confidence of his former life. "And your timing belt needs adjustment. Simple fixes, if you know where to look." Victoria watches in amazement as his weathered hands dance across complex machinery with the grace of an artist. This man, whom she would have passed without a glance this morning, suddenly reveals depths that shatter her preconceptions like glass. The engine roars to life, purring with renewed strength. Daniel steps back, satisfaction briefly illuminating his face before humility reclaims it. For one fleeting moment he stands taller, echoing the man he once was. I don't know how to thank you," Victoria stammers, already reaching for her wallet. "Please, let me give you something for your trouble." She extends several crisp bills, more cash than Daniel has seen in months. Yet he gently raises his palm, refusing with a simple shake of his head. "Just help someone else one day," he says, rain streaming down his face, masking whether the moisture in his eyes comes from the storm or something deeper. "When you can, that's payment enough." Their eyes meet in profound understanding, a bridge forming between worlds seemingly destined never to connect. Victoria sees beyond the worn clothes and unshaven face to the soul beneath, a man of extraordinary integrity standing before her in ordinary circumstances. "What's your name?" she asks, her voice soft with newfound reverence. "Daniel," he answers simply. "Daniel?" she repeats, as if committing it to memory, unaware that this name will soon change everything in her carefully ordered life. I'm Victoria. Between them, something shifts, invisible yet monumental, as the night cradles a moment when kindness rewrites destiny's path in ways neither could possibly imagine. Golden morning light filters through the city, painting even the forgotten corners with momentary warmth. Daniel stirs beneath his makeshift shelter, the previous night's rain having left everything damp and heavy. His joints ache from the cold. As he carefully folds his blanket, the ritual that begins each uncertain day. The sound of hesitant footsteps draws his attention. Standing before him, seemingly out of place like a rare bird landed in concrete wilderness, is Victoria. Her designer coat now replaced by simple jeans and a sweater, as if attempting to bridge the vast gulf between their worlds. I brought coffee, she offers, extending a paper bag that releases the aroma of fresh pastries, and some other things I thought might help. Daniel's weathered face registers confusion, then cautious surprise. Beside her rests a duffel bag, clean clothes, toiletries, essentials that most take for granted but which represent unimaginable luxury to him now. Why? He asks simply, the single word carrying the weight of 1,000 rejected by society too. Many times, to trust unexpected kindness, because I need to understand, she answers truthfully, your story. How someone who can fix a foreign luxury car engine in the pouring dark ends up here. They sit on a park bench as the city awakens around them, two souls creating an island of stillness amid urban chaos. Daniel's words come slowly at first, then gain momentum as Victoria listens without judgment. 15 years at Westbrook Manufacturing, he explains, his calloused fingers cradling warm coffee. Then the pandemic hit. Factory closed. My wife got sick. Medical bills piled up. No insurance after they let us go. His voice catches as he recounts the swift, merciless descent. The foreclosure notice, selling possessions to pay for treatments that ultimately failed, his grief driving away friends and family. One missed paycheck. That's how close most people are to this. He gestures to his cart of possessions. You become invisible overnight. Victoria's eyes fill with tears. Her empire of acquisitions and mergers suddenly seems fragile. Paper towers built on fortune's fickle wind. The carefully constructed narrative of her own success, that hard work alone separates achievement from failure, crumbles before the raw truth of Daniel's story. What if, she begins, her voice finding new purpose, what if you had a second chance? Between them, possibility blooms, delicate yet persistent as a flower breaking through concrete, as morning light bathes them, both in the gentle glow of new beginnings. The bustling cafe hums with morning conversations as Victoria and Daniel sit across from one another, an island of meaningful silence amid trivial chatter. Steam rises from fresh coffee between them, a small luxury that Victoria ordered without thought, but which Daniel cradles between his palms as if holding something precious. I have a proposition for you, Victoria says, her voice carrying the same decisive tone that closes million-dollar deals in boardrooms. Her fingers tap rhythmically against a leather portfolio, a nervous habit she rarely displays. Daniel's eyes lift to meet hers, cautious hope warring with ingrained skepticism. The past years have taught him that offers often come with invisible Strings attached, kindness with hidden costs. My company's maintenance department needs someone with mechanical knowledge, she continues. Someone who understands how things work, who can fix what others might discard as broken beyond repair. The weight of her words settles between them, the metaphor not lost on either. Daniel's weathered hands tighten around his cup, his throat working to find words that won't come. It's temporary at first, Victoria adds quickly, misreading his silence as hesitation, but with potential for permanent position, housing allowance included, until you get back on your feet. People like me don't just walk into places like yours, Daniel finally speaks, his voice rough with emotion. They'll see me coming from a mile away, where I've been, what I've become. Victoria leans forward, her eyes reflecting determination forged through her own battles. Everyone in that building has a story, Daniel. Some were just luckier, in which chapters got read aloud. Outside, the city moves in its relentless rhythm, people hurrying past, unseeing. Inside this moment, time slows as Daniel confronts the crossroads before him, the terrifying vulnerability of hope after years of expecting nothing. What if I fail? The question escapes him, raw, honest, the fear that haunts his nights given voice in daylight. Victoria's hand moves across the table, not quite touching his but close enough to bridge worlds. What if you don't? Sunlight breaks through clouds. Outside, casting golden light across their table, nature's spotlight on this pivotal moment. Daniel takes a deep breath, straightening his shoulders as something long dormant awakens within him. When do I start? He asks, his voice steadier now, as if already reclaiming pieces of himself long thought lost. Victoria smiles, not the practiced smile of business transactions, but something genuine that transforms her entire face. Tomorrow. We begin tomorrow. Morning light refracts through towering glass windows as Daniel stands in the gleaming lobby of Langley Enterprises, his reflection barely recognizable in polished surfaces. The new clothes Victoria provided hang differently on his frame. Clean, lines and crisp fabric feeling like a costume rather than clothing. His heartbeat echoes in his ears, drowning out the ambient sounds of corporate efficiency. Security badge, sir? The receptionist's smile falters as she takes in his appearance. Something in Daniel, still marking him as an outsider despite the external transformation. Her manicured fingers slide his temporary badge across the counter with a distance that speaks volumes. Whispers follow him down corridors of power, employees exchanging glances that weave stories about the mysterious man Victoria Langley personally brought into their ranks. Their curious eyes burn like spotlight beams, searching for visible traces of the streets on his skin. He was homeless, you know, one voice carries just loudly enough to reach his ears. Charity case. Each word carves deeper into his fragile confidence. Yet Daniel's hands remain steady as he repairs an HVAC system others declared beyond saving. His fingers remember their purpose even when his spirit wavers. Meanwhile, Victoria faces her own battlefield in the executive suite, where board members gather like storm clouds. This is a publicly traded company, not a rehabilitation center, Harrison Wells declares, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years on the board. Your personal rescue project creates liability issues, Victoria. Victoria stands her ground, chin raised in the subtle defiance that built her reputation. Daniel Carter has skills we need. I'm making a business decision based on merit. And if he fails? Another voice challenges. When he fails? Then I'll have been wrong, she answers, simply. But I'm not. As day fades into evening, Daniel sits alone in the small apartment Victoria arranged. Walls bare, furnishings minimal, yet infinitely more than his recent past. He stares at hands cleaned of grime, but still bearing calluses that tell his story. One day at a time, he whispers to himself, echoing words that once kept him alive on frozen streets. His reflection in the window shows a man suspended between worlds, no longer invisible to society, yet not fully seen for who he truly is. Outside, city lights flicker to life against darkening skies, countless windows illuminating individual stories playing out in parallel. Among them, two souls separated by circumstances yet connected by fate continue their separate struggles, unaware that their intertwined journey has only just begun. Fluorescent lights hum overhead as Daniel crouches beside an ancient printer, the office pariah that technicians had declared a lost cause months ago. His tools lay organized beside him, a methodical arrangement that speaks of respect for the craft. What others see as mundane maintenance tasks, Daniel approaches with the focus of an artist restoring a masterpiece. "You're wasting your time," comments Melissa from accounting, coffee cup poised mid-sip. "That thing's been eating important documents since last quarter." Daniel offers a gentle smile, fingers already identifying the hidden jam that plagued the machine. "Sometimes the most overlooked problems have the simplest solutions," he replies, voice soft but steady with newfound confidence. Throughout the building, small miracles begin to accumulate. The temperamental elevator that now glides smoothly between floors, the chronically flickering lights in conference room B, now steady and bright, the once deafening air conditioning system now whispering cool air through vents. Like invisible threads, these improvements weave Daniel into the fabric of daily corporate life. Then, disaster strikes without warning. The company's main server room overheats during crucial end-of-quarter processing, alarms blaring as technicians scramble to prevent catastrophic data loss. Executive faces grow pale with each passing minute of downtime. Millions potentially lost with each failed reboot attempt. The cooling system's primary pump is failing, the head technician announces grimly. Replacement parts won't arrive until morning. What about a temporary bypass? Daniel's voice surprises everyone, including himself. The room falls silent as all eyes turn toward him. If we reconfigure the secondary cooling lines and adapt the pressure valves, we could stabilize the temperature long enough to complete the processing. Skepticism transforms into desperate hope as Daniel sketches his solution on a whiteboard, his hands steady and sure. Hours later, servers hum contentedly as data flows uninterrupted. Crisis averted through ingenuity born from years of making do with whatever was available. From the doorway, Victoria watches silently as employees who once whispered behind Daniel's back now gather around him with genuine respect in their eyes. Pride swells within her chest, not the satisfaction of being proven right, but something deeper and more profound. Daniel looks up, catching her gaze across the room. For a brief moment, their eyes lock in shared understanding. Two souls recognizing that sometimes the most valuable skills are forged in life's harshest furnaces. His slight nod acknowledges what neither needs to say aloud, that worth isn't determined by circumstances, but by the courage to rise above them. In this fluorescent-lit moment of triumph, something transforms permanently, not just Daniel's place in the company, but his belief in his own endless capacity to rebuild what once seemed irreparably broken. Rain taps against the windows of Langley Enterprises, mirroring the rhythm of Daniel's quickening heartbeat as he navigates the crowded corporate cafeteria. 3 weeks of steady work have softened the sharp edges of hunger from his face, yet invisible scars remain beneath the surface, wounds that reopen without warning. Today's company-wide gathering brings investors and partners from across the industry, the room humming with ambition and expensive cologne. Daniel moves quietly along the periphery, refilling water pitchers, part of the background machinery that keeps such events running smoothly. Wait, Carter? Daniel Carter? The voice slices through ambient chatter like a blade. Daniel freezes, pitcher mid-pour, as Martin Grayson approaches. Once his supervisor at Westbrook Manufacturing, now a consultant with one of Victoria's partner firms. Recognition dawns in Grayson's eyes, followed quickly by something darker. "Well, I'll be damned," Grayson continues, voice carrying just loudly enough to draw nearby attention. "Guys, this was once our top floor manager before he... what was it again? Drank himself out of house and home after the layoffs?" Each word strikes like physical blows, distorting truth into something crueler. The room seems to shrink around Daniel, carefully constructed confidence crumbling as curious eyes turn toward him. "I heard you were living under bridges," Grayson continues, swirling expensive scotch in his glass. "Quite the charity project for Langley Enterprises, wouldn't you say?" Daniel's knuckles whiten around the pitcher handle, shame burning through him like wildfire. In this moment, all progress feels erased. Months of street survival and weeks of hard-earned respect dissolving beneath the acid of his past. Actually, Martin, Daniel's mechanical ingenuity saved us nearly $2 million in potential losses last week. Victoria's voice cuts through the tension as she materializes beside Daniel, her presence a steadying force. Something about seeing value where others see only broken parts. She steps forward, power radiating from her petite frame. "We're fortunate to have him." "I was merely pointing out," Grayson begins, "that people are more than their worst moments." Victoria interrupts, her smile diplomatic, yet her eyes uncompromising. "I couldn't agree more. Which reminds me, how did that embezzlement investigation at your previous firm conclude?" Color drains from Grayson's face as he retreats into the crowd. Victoria turns to Daniel, her voice softening. "The past only defines us if we let it." "Daniel." Their eyes meet in wordless understanding, two souls recognizing that true strength isn't avoiding falls, but finding the courage to rise again, bearing both scars and wisdom as testament to the journey. Morning sunlight streams through windows, illuminating the conference room where tension hangs thick as executives gather for the emergency meeting. The Johnson contract, worth millions and vital to the company's fourth-quarter projections, teeters on the brink of collapse after their primary maintenance system failed catastrophically overnight. "We need someone on site within the hour," Victoria announces, her voice calm despite the crisis. Eyes sweep the room, landing expectantly on senior technicians with prestigious degrees and years of corporate experience. "Daniel should go," she continues, sending shockwaves through the assembled team. He designed the bypass system that saved our servers last month. He'll understand the mechanical failures better than anyone. Whispers erupt like sudden flames, sending the former homeless man to their most prestigious client, entrusting him with a contract that could make or break quarterly earnings. Even those who've witnessed Daniel's skills exchange doubtful glances. "I won't let you down," Daniel promises quietly, collecting the necessary tools with methodical precision, aware of the weight placed upon his shoulders. Not just a job, but a testament to Victoria's faith in him. Hours later, Daniel stands in the cavernous machinery room of Johnson Industries, sweat beading on his forehead as executives in tailored suits hover nervously nearby. The massive system, a custom installation that previous technicians declared beyond immediate repair, sits silent before him like a mechanical puzzle. "Our board meeting starts in 3 hours, Johnson himself states flatly. "If production doesn't resume by then, we'll have no choice but to terminate our contract." Daniel nods, already seeing beyond the immediate problem to its root cause. With calloused hands that once begged for change, he now dismantles complex machinery with surgical precision, finding the cascade of failures others missed. Back at Langley Enterprises, the executive floor buzzes with speculation about the inevitable failure. "She set him up to fail," some whisper. "Too much, too soon." Then phones light up simultaneously. Production at Johnson Industries not only restored, but operating with unprecedented efficiency. Daniel's intuitive modifications saving them millions in future maintenance costs. When Daniel returns, he walks differently. Shoulders straight, eyes clear with quiet dignity. Employees who once avoided his gaze now seek his expertise, his journey, from invisible to invaluable, complete in their recognition. "How did you know what to do when everyone else failed?" Victoria asks later, genuine curiosity in her voice. Daniel smiles, a full, unguarded expression that transforms his weathered face. When you've had to remake yourself from nothing, you learn to see possibilities where others see only problems. Between them passes the unspoken understanding that some strengths can only be forged in the crucible of profound loss, and that sometimes life's greatest challenges reveal our most essential truths. Autumn light spills through floor-to-ceiling windows in Victoria's executive office, painting everything in hues of gold and amber. Daniel stands before her expansive desk, hands clasped behind his back, a habit from his new life that helps steady his nerves. The summons came unexpectedly, leaving questions swirling in his mind like fallen leaves in a gentle breeze. "Please sit." Victoria gestures to the chair across from her, not the one reserved for business associates, but the comfortable one typically offered to friends. Her usual professional mask softens as she closes her laptop, giving him her undivided attention. "The Johnson contract renewal came through this morning," she begins, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. "They specifically mentioned your work as the deciding factor." Daniel nods, pride warming his chest, though his expression remains humble. 6 months ago, he slept beneath overpasses. Today, his name appears in corporate communications. The journey between those realities still feels dreamlike, fragile. "I asked you here because your temporary position ends next week," Victoria continues, watching him carefully. Something cold settles in Daniel's stomach, the familiar sensation of good things slipping away. of foundations crumbling beneath his feet. He braces himself for the inevitable fall, for the return to invisible existence. "I'd like to offer you something permanent," she says instead, sliding a folder across the polished surface. "Head of Mechanical Systems, full benefits, and this," she places a small key beside the folder, its silver surface catching the light. "An apartment in the company building. Nothing extravagant, but it's yours for as long as you need it." Daniel stares at these symbols of stability, his throat tightening with emotion he dares not release. "Why?" he manages finally, the question encompassing everything. Why him? Why now? Why care at all? Victoria's gaze drifts to the framed photograph on her desk, a younger version of herself, standing beside an elderly woman with kind eyes. "Mrs. Abernathy," she explained softly. "My landlady when I first came to this city, with nothing but determination and student debt. She saw something in me worth believing in when no one else did. Gave me a place to stay when I couldn't make rent." She meets his eyes directly. The powerful CEO momentarily replaced by someone who remembers vulnerability. "Everyone deserves someone who refuses to let them remain invisible, Daniel." Outside, the city continues its relentless rhythm, unaware of the quiet transformation occurring in this sunlit office. Daniel's weathered hands reach for the folder, not just accepting a job, but embracing permission to believe in tomorrows. Again, "Thank you," he whispers, two simple words carrying the weight of rebirth. Between them passes the unspoken understanding that sometimes salvation comes not from grand gestures, but from one person simply seeing another, truly seeing them, and offering not pity, but possibility. Keys jingle in Daniel's hand as he stands before the apartment door, number 718, a simple wooden threshold that separates his past from his future. Sunlight streams through the hallway window, casting his shadow long across the carpeted floor as he takes a deep breath and slides the key into the lock. The click echoes in his chest like a starting pistol, signaling a new race. The apartment isn't extravagant, a modest one-bedroom with basic furnishings, but to Daniel, it might as well be a palace. Clean walls, working lights, running water, a refrigerator that hums with quiet reliability, each ordinary feature now extraordinary through eyes that have known their absence. He runs his fingers along the kitchen counter, feeling the cool surface beneath his touch, solid and real. "Home," he whispers, testing the word that has been absent from his vocabulary for so long. That evening, with trembling fingers, Daniel reaches for his new phone, another gift from his new position. The contact list is nearly empty, save for Victoria and work colleagues, but one number burns in his memory, unchanged despite years of separation. His daughter's number. "Dad?" Sarah's voice comes through after the third ring, disbelief coloring the single syllable. "Is it really you?" Tears spring to Daniel's eyes as they talk, tentatively at first, then with growing warmth. Pictures arrive in his inbox. His granddaughter Emma, now 7, whom he's never met. Plans form for a weekend visit, bridges beginning. To span chasms once thought uncrossable, days turn to weeks as Daniel settles into rhythms once taken for granted. Morning coffee sipped from his own mug, mail addressed to his name, colleagues who wave in hallways, neighbors who nod in greeting, small acknowledgements of his existence that heal invisible wounds. In the bathroom mirror, a different man stares. Back at him, clean-shaven, clear-eyed, standing straighter, the haunted look receding from his gaze with each passing day. One evening, he finds himself browsing online courses in advanced mechanical engineering, his finger hovering over the enroll button before pressing down decisively. On his nightstand, a small cactus, his first houseplant, stands in defiant green resilience. Beside it, a journal where he's begun to write again, not just of past regrets, but future possibilities. The final entry for the evening reads simply, "Today, I remembered how to hope." Outside his window, stars punctuate the city skyline, like distant promises waiting to be claimed by those brave enough to reach for them again. Winter winds sweep through city streets, carrying memories Daniel can feel in his bones. The biting cold that seeps through layers, the particular emptiness of hunger that hollows you from within. 6 months into his new life, he walks with purpose, briefcase in hand, a scarf Victoria gifted him wrapped snugly around his neck. The man sits huddled in the alcove of an abandoned storefront, a familiar silhouette Daniel recognizes not from meeting but from living. Grey beard frosted with ice crystals, cardboard sign weathered by elements, eyes that have learned to look down rather than meet the judgment of passers-by. Most hurry past, expertly crafting blindness to what they fear might one day be there. In reality, Daniel stops. Something shifts in his chest. Not pity, but recognition. The thin line between there and here, between invisibility and existence. "Excuse me," Daniel says, his voice gentle yet firm enough to carry. "Would you join me for lunch?" Suspicion flashes across the man's weathered face, the wariness of someone who knows kindness often comes with hidden costs. Yet hunger proves stronger than doubt as he slowly rises, joints stiff from cold and concrete. Inside the warm cafe, steam rises from bowls of soup and mugs of coffee between them. The man, Thomas, he hesitantly shares, speaks haltingly at first, then with increasing trust. Former construction worker, injury, pain medication, lost job, lost home, lost hope. The familiar domino effect that transforms productive citizens into sidewalk ghosts. "Everyone has a story," Daniel says quietly, echoing Victoria's words that once scaffolded his own broken spirit. "And every story can have a new chapter." Thomas looks up, truly meeting Daniel's eyes for the first time. "You don't know what it's like," he begins. "I slept under the Harrison Street Bridge for 14 months, Daniel replies simply, "until someone decided I deserved a second chance." Understanding passes between them, a current of shared experience. No privilege could simulate. Daniel slides across his business card, written on the back, an address, a time, a promise of possible maintenance work. "Just show up," Daniel says. "That's all, just show up." Outside, snow begins to fall, transforming the harsh cityscape into something softer, each flake a tiny possibility descending from infinite sky. As they part ways, Daniel watches Thomas walk away with shoulders slightly straighter, carrying not just a full stomach, but something far more precious, the weight of being truly seen. The invisible thread connecting Victoria's kindness through Daniel now extends onward to Thomas, proof that compassion, like light, never diminishes when shared, but only multiplies, illuminating darkened corners of human experience, one life at a time. Twilight bathes the city in hues of lavender and gold as Daniel and Victoria stand on the rooftop garden of Langley Enterprises. A year has passed since that rain-soaked night when fate intertwined their lives. An anniversary neither planned to commemorate, yet both felt drawn to honor. The skyline stretches before them, a glittering tapestry of lights against darkening sky, each window representing countless stories playing out in parallel. "I never thanked you properly," Daniel says, his voice steady with newfound confidence. Gone is the hunched posture of a man trying to disappear. In its place stands someone who claims his space in the world without apology. "For seeing me when no one else would." Victoria smiles, watching how the setting sun catches in Daniel's eyes that now reflect plans and possibilities rather than just survival. "I think you've thanked me 1,000 times over," she replies. "Every system you've improved, every new employee you've mentored." Below them, Thomas, once huddled in that storefront alcove, now leads the evening maintenance crew, his voice carrying up from the loading dock as he guides two other formerly homeless men through their tasks. Daniel's initiative, the Second Chance program, has grown beyond one man's redemption into a company-wide commitment. "When I was a child," Victoria confesses, leaning against the railing, "I thought wealth meant having everything. Now I understand. It's about having enough to share and knowing what truly matters." Daniel nods, understanding the weight behind her words. His fingers brush against the small velvet box in his pocket, containing not a ring, but a pendant for his daughter Sarah, a gift to celebrate their fully mended relationship. Next weekend, his granddaughter Emma will stay overnight in his apartment for the first time. "You know what I've learned?" Daniel asks, his gaze sweeping over the city that once rendered him invisible. "That dignity isn't something that can be taken from you permanently. It can be buried, forgotten, even abandoned, but never truly lost." A gentle breeze carries the scent of blooming rooftop flowers as they stand in comfortable silence, two souls forever altered by a single moment of recognition. The line between savior and saved has long since blurred between them, each having given the other something essential. Victoria offering Daniel a chance to rebuild, Daniel showing Victoria the profound wealth in meaningful connection. As darkness gently claims the sky, city lights reflect in their eyes, mirroring not just the external landscape, but the illuminated paths within, where once darkened corners now shine with purpose, possibility, and the quiet miracle of being truly seen. Spring sunlight dances through the windows of the conference room where Daniel stands before the board of directors. His presentation slides, illuminating faces that once regarded him with skepticism, but now show genuine respect. 2 years have transformed not just the man, but the very culture of Langley Enterprises itself. The Second Chance initiative has decreased our maintenance costs by 32%, Daniel explains, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who has walked through fire and emerged stronger. More importantly, we've brought 27 people from the streets into sustainable employment. Pride swells in Victoria's chest as she watches from the head of the table. Not the pride of personal achievement, but of witnessing potential fulfilled beyond even her most optimistic hopes. The young executive who once saw a drenched homeless man as just another human being now watches that same man reshape an entire corporation's understanding of value. "Which brings me to our next proposal," Victoria adds, rising to stand beside Daniel, Langley Foundation for New Beginnings, a non-profit organization dedicated to creating pathways from homelessness to employment across multiple industries. Renderings appear on screen. A downtown building being transformed into transitional housing, training facilities, wellness resources. The ambitious vision of someone who discovered that true wealth isn't measured in profit margins but in lives transformed. Sometimes the most valuable assets aren't listed on any balance sheet, she continues, her gaze sweeping across faces who once cared only for quarterly earnings. They're the human potential we too often walk past without seeing. Later, as they walk together through the city park where Daniel once slept, the contrast couldn't be more profound. Children play on sunlit grass where shadows once seemed permanent. Among them, Daniel's granddaughter Emma races toward them with outstretched arms, her laughter a testament to connections restored. "Did you ever imagine this?" Victoria asks softly, watching life bloom all around them, not just in spring flowers, but in the eyes of the man beside her. Daniel shakes his head, emotion momentarily stealing his voice. "Not even in my wildest dreams," he finally answers. But that's the thing about second chances. They take you places you never thought possible. Above them, clouds part to reveal endless blue sky, a canvas of possibility stretching beyond the city skyline. As Emma's small hand slips into Daniel's weathered one, the circle completes itself. Proof that even in a world that rushes past, the fallen, a single moment of seeing another human being's worth can ripple outward, creating waves of transformation that touch countless shores. For in the end, we are all just travelers seeking the same thing, not to remain invisible, but to be truly seen. And in that recognition lies the greatest gift we can offer one another, the chance to begin again.